Hey guys, welcome back to my series on standing up Kubernetes the harder way, harder way. Um, so today I'm going to continue off with the installation of the Kubernetes control plane, my single node that I've shown on the prior video. And here on the left, I have some documentation that I have used Claude AI to generate. And I basically based my documentation off of someone else's uh, original work that was done several years back, and it's just a little bit more condensed, a little more summarized, uh, and tailored to my specific use case, which is a single node. I will be doing multi-node clusters, but I wanted to start off simple, just one node, not worry about internode communication and stuff like that. So with that, let's get started. And the beginning of the document, it's like comparing what the prior versions used in this original documentation versus what the current document that I have uses. Um, and then explains what this chapter does. Basically, we're going to install etcd, the API server, the controller manager, and the scheduler. At least I hope we are. Haven't gone through it, so we'll find out what it does. Um, and then some stuff that was removed from the uh, original documentation that was used. Okay, so prerequisites. We need to SSH into the VM, which we are, and then confirm that the certificates and kubeconfigs from the security bootstrapping chapter are present, which that's what we did in the prior video. Should be there. Yep, everything's there. You should see a CAPM, yeah, everything that we just saw. Quick overview of systemd, because the way that we're going to deploy it is pretty much everything's going to be a systemd process. Later, we'll explore kubeadm and possibly even using the etc Kubernetes manifest and deploying some of the components as pods. But for now, I want to just go with this approach that we're doing. So every Kubernetes component in this guide runs as a systemd service. Its service is defined by a unit file in the etc systemd system folder, which tells systemd what binary to run, how to restart it, failure, and so on and so forth. And these are just some key commands about, daemon reload, enable the service, start the service, get the status of the service, and you can also look at the logs via journal CTL. There's also one that's not there, which is stop service and restart as well, but that's okay. So we're gonna define some variables. Define these once at the top of your session inside the VM. They are referenced throughout the rest of the chapter. Okay, well, I'm gonna create an environment variable file, and I'm gonna add them in here. Can I source this? No. So I have to vim, and then norm inserts, exports, and can I source this? That's what I need to do. So env sort. All right, let's see what we got here. So we have the K8's version. What? Version. So versions, architecture, architecture, VM. Yeah, all right, so everything's there. Now we're gonna download the components, right? So the component that we want to download first is etcd, and it's going to pull it from etc/io/etcd releases download, and then the version. Let me see if this link will work. So it'd be etcd version. Oops. I need to history. Extremely close right here. And of course I can't. I can just open up a new tab. GitHub, github.com, and then I need to go here, here, yeah, okay. Then we go docs, control plane. All right, sorry about that. So we're going to, let's try this. So etcd version, which is 369. 3.6.9 / etcd archive, which is the tar file. That's interesting. That's not really working for me. Let me go to their releases. So this is 369. So this is Linux. This is the version. Download URL. Might be a release down here as well. Which is probably one of these. Linux Arch. I mean, I'll test it out and see what happens. Do I have any scripts here? I'm just gonna call this download install etcd. Vim install _etcd. This isn't even installing it. It's just, well, yeah, it is installing it. We're downloading it and then putting it in the etcd folder. I wonder if I need to change any permissions though. And we'll find out. So user bin env. So that's going to set the tar package name. Going to download it from that location. Then we're going to unpack it. And then whatever we unpack, we're going to copy over to that directory. All right, so chmod. Let's try it again. So the link does work. I guess you can't do like sub URL, subdomains, or the sub routes, should I say. Okay. So it unpacked it. And then, okay. Then it just copied over. It copied over everything that was etcd star. So what is that? All right, so the etcd itself, that's the CLI, and then the util. Okay. Those are the three things that we get. Okay, good. Next step is to create the data configuration directories and then copy the certificates over. All right, let's do that. Oh, and they do have the execute permission, so that's good. So I'm going to make the directories etc, etcd, var lib. You know what? Let's do this. So sudo mkdir -p etcd. First directory, second directory is var lib etcd. And we're going to change the permissions on the directory. So it looks like etcd. And then I wonder if we have to do a recursive change. And we're going to copy over the CA PAM, Kubernetes key PAM, and Kubernetes PAM. We're going to copy it to etcd directory. All right. And then we're going to create this systemd file. And let's pay attention to the systemd file, see what it does. So the start command is going to be etcd itself. So it's going to invoke the binary. Then it's going to pass in several CLI arguments. So the certificate, a key, peer cert, peer key, certificate authority, peer trusted certificate authority file, PEM file basically, client, client cert auth, the advertised address for etcd, so it's listening on localhost at 2380, and then for the peers and the clients. Okay, advertised client, clustered token, etcd cluster 0, initial cluster is vname da da da. Okay. I make sure that it also sources the env file just in case. All right. So it's gonna basically put this content here in this file. We're only going to have one member. That's correct. The flag lists only one member instead of 3, and all peers URLs use localhost. Since there are no peers to communicate with externally, the client list and URL includes both VM address, so the API server can reach it by IP, and localhost. Okay. Then once we create this, we're going to do a sudo daemon reload enable the service, and then start it. So let's do that. After we do that, I want to check the status as well. If everything is working, we can use the etcd client to go ahead and do a members list. But let's try and run what we have first now. And of course, that didn't work. So source, right. There are multiple ways to do things. Let's see if this works. Yeah, there we go. Okay, perfect. One thing I want to do is EV port pager equals cat. All right. So let's look at what happened. So it had already downloaded the release, unpacked it. We couldn't copy over the binary. You know, we've been repeatedly running the script, so we can't copy over, replace it because etcd was active. And then it went ahead and created the service file. The service file was created at here, so we can inspect that. Then it ran the commands that we said, right? The daemon reload, which is a requirement every time you either create a new service in systemd or you make a change. So you do that and then enable the service, start it. You check the status, which is what this is, and it's running. We can look at the logs. For the service. Let's look at that. Nothing. Oh, I think we have to do this like this. Yeah. Yeah. So it's serving. You can see it there. Serving. So we're good. All right. So etcd is good for the time being. Let's see if we can actually do a member list. I don't think we need to do this because the default version of etcd CTL should be 3 for the API. But we can check. I mean, there's no harm in doing that, but we can check. That's not what I wanted. etcd CTL etcd CTL. All right. API version is 3.6. So let's do a member list. First, what we're going to do is want to just try doing it without any args, see what happens. Just generally curious. etcd-ctl member list. Yeah, it's timing up because it doesn't know. Yeah, it timed out. Well, timed out. Why did it time out? Did it time out? No, it's connection error. Deadline exceeded. Okay. Let's try this, see what happens. Unrecognized environment variable. So we don't need this. You can see it right here. Certificate signed by an unknown authority. Yeah, so yeah, that makes sense because we didn't pass any of the certs in, so we need to pass in the CA cert equals etc etcd slash ca.pem, the certificate itself. So that will be etc slash etcd slash kubernetes pem and the key etcd kubernetes slash key pem. Yeah, there it is. It responded. Said that it started. That's the name. Those are the addresses from before when we configured it. Yeah, we're good. So that's working. All right. Next thing we're going to do is the kube-apiserver. So let's do that. Copy that. And let's create another script. Install underscore k-api short. User bin env. And then we're going to source the env file. Okay, so here is where it's going to download the API server from. Gonna chmod it, and then it's going to copy it over to user local bin. Okay. Then we're going to create the varlib Kubernetes directory and copy over the certs that we created from before into the varlib Kubernetes folder. So let's copy that. Okay. Then it's going to create the systemd file. So let's look at the systemd file. So here's the start command. So it's going to run the binary, pass in the address for the virtual machine that was set here, 10.0.2.15. It's going to run it as privileged as a privileged mode. Only one API server. Then it's going to set the sizes and the age and the backup count of the logs and where to put the logs. The authorization mode, which is node and RBAC. That's good to know. The bind address, which is on everything, basically. This is what I'm seeing here. Then it's going to pass in the certificate paths, the client CA, and we're going to enable some admission plugins. So namespace lifecycle, node restriction, limit ranger. Okay. I'm going to have to look to see if we really need to enable all of these, but nice to have them, I guess, for our test case. Then it's going to pass in the certificates for etcd plus the endpoint and port that it talked to. The time to live is 1 hour. The encryption provider that we created at the beginning when we used the urandom and base64 encoding in that YAML file. That's nice to know. Then the kubelet certs, runtime config, API. I don't know what that is, so I'm gonna have to look that one up. Then some service account info, the service cluster IP range, and the node port range. TLS cert file, private key, and then v2. Is that verbosity 2? I think I'm gonna have to look up. We'll find that out here in a moment when we get this all downloaded and installed. So we create the systemd file, and then there's an explanation down here. So API server count to 1, right? Because it's a single node cluster, so there's not 3. The ETD servers, there's only 1. Service account issuer uses localhost instead of load balance virtual IP, because again, there's only 1 control plane. Service cluster IP range. This is the range from which Kubernetes service gets the cluster IPs. The first address in the range is 1096.0.1. Is automatically assigned to Kubernetes API service. Okay. And it must be listed in the API server certificates SAN list, which we did in the security chapter. Yeah. Actually, you know what? Let's confirm that. So it would be in the I think that's in the Kubernetes CSS. That in the CSR JSON for this one? Of course. That's not it. It's this one right here. Yeah, it is right there. 1096.0.1. 1096.0.1. Yep, there it is. All right. So we've created the systemd file. Let's just keep going. Now we're gonna do the same thing we did with the etcd, because that was also a systemd service, which is do daemon reload, enable the service, start the service, and we're going to check the status. I also think you need sudo for that. And then we can, once everything's up and running good, we'll do a health check curl. chmod +x install. Okay, let's run it. All right, so it downloaded the binary tar file, unpacked it, chmodded it, and then copied it over to user local bin. Then it creates the systemd file like we mentioned earlier. Does the daemon reload, enable service start, and then we do a status command, which you can see here. I want to do another status command just to be sure. There's not much here. We could do a journal, but I don't think there isn't going to be much there. So it would be kube-apiserver. It's either that or remember there was a log file. There's an audit log file here. Oh, okay, so that was it. All right. So this is the top of the log file. API server count has been deprecated. API server count is deprecated and will be removed in future release. Okay, so we'll have to figure out a better mechanism to do that. Maybe it might not be needed. Zero the options. Monitoring resource count, address. Okay, so it's doing its thing. We are going to do the health check. It's actually, so it responded with an okay. There's another thing I want to do is, I thought I saw, let's do a netstat minus TNL UPA and 6443. I'm going to grab 6443. Yeah, see, this is listening on all the addresses. So in theory, I should also be able to do a health check against 10.0.2.15. Yep, see, it says okay. Now here's the other thing I want to do. So this is on 6443. I don't remember if in the cloud init I also exposed the 6443. But we can check. So that would be in the CKA lab, node 1, cloud init. Was it in the, no, it was in the start script. Maybe it's in that folder. So it's in, yeah, it's supposed to be there. Is 644, yeah, 6443 is exposed. So in theory, I should also be able to do a curl request against localhost on port 6443. So the health check, the same one from earlier. But it will fail because I don't have the save certificate. So I'm wondering if I can do like a -K and see if that works. Yeah. Yeah, that works. That's good. If I don't do a -K, it's gonna complain because the certificate is self-signed. So it doesn't trust it. It can't verify. That's fine. Right, let's go back into the node. We know that it's installed. We can curl the health check against the API server. The next thing we're going to do is the kube-controller-manager. So the same thing. Let's create another script. Install kube-controller. I'm going to say k_ctr mgr.sh user bin env shell. We're going to source the env file, and then we're going to copy this because this is where we're going to get the binary the release from. Then we're going to copy over the kubeconfig is what it shows here. From here to here. This is for the controller manager, okay? And we're going to create the systemd file. So the start command is going to be kube-controller-manager. We're going to bind it on all addresses. This is the cluster slider, address block space, cluster name, the certificates that we generated, the kubeconfig file, leader elect true. I mean, there's only one node, but that's fine. A root CA's file, service account, private key. I wonder if that's there. I'm not sure if that's there. Because the only thing we copied over was the kubeconfig file. We didn't copy whatever this is. Okay. Maybe I must have copied it from a prior commands. Let's open up this script one more time. All right, systemd is copied over. And then same set of commands, daemon reload, enable start, and then we're going to do status. I want to do a status. I'm not sure why there isn't one here. I'll check the docs to see if there's like a health check or something with the kube-controller-manager. Might be. What port does this even listen to? This is it even a REST API service? That's another thing. How do you communicate with the kube-control-manager? We'll figure that out. Chmod k-control. All right, so let's run it. All right, it downloaded, did its thing. Status says it's running. Says it's listening on all addresses, but we'll figure that out later. All right, so that's running the journal. This would be controller manager? Yeah. Says here, no authentication kubeconfig provider in order to look up client Cs. So client certificate authentication won't work. This might be an issue. We'll do some troubleshooting later. How can I do a spell check against kube-controller-manager? Oh, it's another health. Health Z. Okay. Curl. And this is 10 to 57. That's not the one. Is there another PEM in here? I wonder why I didn't accept the. Can't I send these? Ah. Okay, so what I'm reading here is that when the kube-controller-manager starts up, it and the scheduler generate their own self-signed certificates at startup for ports 10257 and 10259, and those self-signed servants are not signed by my certificate authority. So even if I did try to pass in the CKA cert, it wouldn't work. Oh wait, there is a way. I would have to pass in the So I would have to pass in the, when I install the scheduler, the control manager, I have to pass in the certified and the TLS private key. So let's do that. QRST. Here. And I have to do the same thing for the scheduler. Maybe the scheduler is already. Have I done the scheduler? No, I have not done the scheduler. So I've only done. And by the way, we don't need kube-apiserver, and we don't need kube-controller-manager because those are already, they're already in user local bin. So we've only installed the control manager. Okay. So let's systemctl stop. We need to do sudo kube-controller-manager service. And of course I have to. All right, so that's stopped now, or should be stopped. Do a status. Enabled, it's inactive. Good. Which means I should be able to do another that. All right, so let's do a journal. I need to update the docs to make sure that that's there. So that would be in, we are on control plane, and then we're doing the kube controller manager. Okay, here's the systemd file. Just want to make sure that that doesn't get lost. Okay. So now if I do a status, it should be active now. Good. Can I do this without sudo? Yes. It doesn't show anything, does it? So what's the difference between? Yeah, see, you don't get to see the part of the logs. That's okay. All right, let's get back to it. So the kube controller is done. Now we're going to do the kube scheduler. Vim install underscore k schedule sh. Add the shebang line. So user bin env shell. We're going to source the env file. And okay, we're going to download the binaries. That's per usual. Add the execution bit, copy it over. Then what is this doing? So this is copying the kubeconfig over to that for the scheduler, and it creates this directory for the Kubernetes config, okay? And then in there, we're going to create a kube schedule configuration. Okay. Okay, client connection, leader election, okay. Then we're going to create the systemd unit file. In this case, the systemd service. I want to know if I think I need to add the I want to make sure that this is correct. Yeah, so I need to add, I also need to update the documentation. Kube Scheduler. Okay, here it is. I want to do a sleep for, maybe 5 seconds. And then I want to do a check on this, on the server. Okay. This one I want to add to the controller-manager. So wim install _k CTR manager sleep 5 seconds. Yeah. And we can do localhost here as well. So 127.0.0.1. Right. I don't think we've actually run the scheduler yet. No, we have not. So let's just look at that real quick. Source the environments, download the binary, copy it over the config and the binary over, make the config directory for Kubernetes, and we create the kube-scheduler configuration, passing in the client connection and setting the leader election to true. Then we create the systemd file, make sure to pass in the CA certs and the cert in the private key. Daemon reload, enable start status. Okay, let's try that. So chmod +x, okay, scheduler. Ideally, I'll do this a few times. Try to do this without any help, and maybe I might ask Cloud to like, hey, give me like 5 different scenarios, break my node, and I just like go and try to fix it, and come up with like a troubleshooting. Like, okay, here's how you fix it. I'm gonna probably do that at the end. That sounds like a good idea. Okay, so the scheduler is up and running, and it did the health check after 5 seconds. So good, and that responded okay as well. So that's good. Question is, did I use the right port? 10259, right? Is that what I did? Yes. Okay, so that was the scheduler. Now we're going to go to the control plane. Yes. Almost done. At least with this session, we're almost done. All right, so at this point, all 4 control plane components should be running. I'm going to check the status of all of them, just to be sure. etcd, API server, the controller manager, and the scheduler. They're all running, they're all active. The next thing we're going to do is install the kubectl is already installed. should be installed. And we're going to create the kubeconfig or the kube directory, and then copy the kubeconfig app to there. All right, the moment of truth. Do we have kubectl? We do. So I should be able to do a get ns. Yes! And there, I don't think there's going to be any pauses there. Because everything's yeah, because everything's a systemd service. Yes. Perfect. We're groovy. Nice. Yep. Okay. We already did this. Yeah, I think we did this already. So what I could do is exit the node, and then I'm going to create a mkdir temp, a cv in here, and I'm going to do an scp of, so scp, what was it, node 01? Node 01 auth star here. SSH. Is it because SAP can't? Do I need the -r? Yeah, SAP, the node. What's wrong with wondering if it doesn't yeah, I don't think it does. Can SCP read my SSH config file? I just tried that exact command. SCP so this has to be wrapped. Perfect. And I do have kubectl, right? Yes. So I have to set the no, is it lowercase? Kube config, yeah. And then path to the kube config. I think it was the admin. This one. So you do kubectl config. We're going to set the cluster. So it'd be CKA lab. Then we're going to pass in the certificate authority. Point it to the path of the certificate authority, which should be here. Let's check. Yeah. So it's here, certificate authority. Then we have to pass in the embed certs equals true, right? Then we're going to set the address, which is HTTPS 127.0.0.1, and then the port, which was 6443. And then the path to kubeconfig, which I don't think I need to set because I exported that variable, but just in case. All right. If we cat config file, yes. Great. So that just sets the cluster. We have to set three additional things, two things, and then which is the credentials, the context, and then use context. So this is actually part of the Udemy course. kubectl config set credentials, the name of the credentials, so CKA admin, client certificate, that'd be the admin pen that we created earlier, client key, admin key.pem. Then we're going to also embed the certs into the config file and then the path of the config. All right, so let's, perfect. So we have the clusters and the users. That's what set credentials does. Now we have to set the context. So it'd be kubectl set, it's config set context CKA lab. The context should be user at cluster. So it would be CKA-admin at CKA lab. And then cluster name. So cluster equals CKA lab user, which is CKA admin, and then the kubeconfig. All right, so let's clear this out. Let's do another cat. The context should be set now. Now we just have to use it. So kubectl config use context name. So it was CKA admin at in the cluster name. Then kubeconfig equals config. All right, so now we've switched to it. Okay, so this was the actual variable. And I should be able to do a kubectl get nodes. there's really nothing there. We do get NS. Yeah. I guess we'll find out later why get nodes does nothing. All right. I think we're gonna leave it at that. Thanks everyone. Hope this is useful for someone. We were actually able to create a cluster. We're not done, but certainly we've gotten pretty far. Started off with creating the virtual server, creating the certificates, then bootstrapping the certificates, I should say, and now installing all the kind of base components of Kubernetes. It's nice. Great progress. Hopefully, I'll get to the next set of tasks here soon. Hope to see you guys in the next one. Take care. Bye.